Millionaire never knew a cleaning lady would risk it all for his daughter's safety. Will you? It was the kind of night where shadows danced in the moonlight, and every creak of the floorboards whispered secrets that could shatter lives. The air felt electric, charged with unspoken fears and hidden dangers. The city pulsed outside, but inside the lavish mansion, a storm brewed far more treacherous than the weather. In the grand foyer, where decadence met despair, Delilah scrubbed the marble floor, her hands trembling not just from the chill. As she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on her. $1 million chandelier hung above her, yet the real weight rested heavy on her shoulders, the safety of the millionaire's only daughter, Lily. Just last week, Delilah overheard a conversation, hushed and frantic, something about threats creeping closer, shadows lurking around every corner. Every night she returned to clean, the mansion swallowed up secrets slick with silk and gold. But those secrets came with a price, and tonight, they might cost more than she could afford to lose. As she polished, a glint of light caught her eye, a small silver locket half buried in the dust. She picked it up, the weight cold and familiar. Inside, a picture of Lily as a baby, and behind it, a note hastily scribbled, "Trust no one." Goosebumps raced down her arms. Who could she trust? Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from the upper floor, growing louder and more frantic. Her heart raced. Was someone coming for the girl? Delilah gripped the locket, anxiety knotting her stomach. The shadows seemed to pull closer, or was it her imagination? The air felt thick with dread, each breath came out in shaky gasps. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Delilah froze. The footsteps paused. Who was up there? She could feel her pulse in her ears, drowning out everything else. With a quick glance at the stairs, she realized the luxury around her couldn't protect those inside. What did the note mean? Why the warning? Every fiber of her being screamed for her to flee, yet her instincts pushed her to stay, to uncover the truth hidden within those walls. With the locket still clutched tightly, she made a decision. She couldn't just clean the mansion, she had to keep Lily safe. But how? What would it take to unravel the mystery that could tear them apart? And as the tension boiled over, she took a step towards the shadows, heart racing, breath caught in her throat. What awaited her just beyond the threshold? Delilah stepped cautiously toward the staircase, each creak of the floor seeming to amplify her racing heart. She clutched the locket tighter, its cold metal pressing into her palm as if it possessed the power to keep her grounded. The footsteps above continued, shifting from uncertain taps to a confident pace, almost like someone was searching. Maybe it was paranoia, but she felt the air grow thick with danger. What if whoever was up there had bad intentions? Her desperate need to shield Lily battled against sheer terror threatening to freeze her in place. I can't just stand here, she whispered to herself, resolve flickering like the chandelier's glow. As she reached the bottom step, a shadow darted across the hallway above. Delilah's breath quickened. She ducked behind a lush drapery, heart pounding in her ears like a war drum. The silhouette moved again, tall and imposing. It must be someone looking for Lily, but who? The note echoed in her mind, trust no one. Could she be overlooking a hidden threat right under her nose? The shadow halted at the edge of a doorway and turned, revealing a face partially illuminated by moonlight. Delilah squinted. It was a man, a stranger, his expression tense, scanning the space with intense fervor. Her instincts screamed at her. He was no friend. Something was horribly wrong. She held her breath, praying she wasn't caught. Gathering herself, Delilah peered around the curtain. The man's gaze lingered on a large portrait of Lily hanging on the wall. For a moment, he looked lost in thought, as if contemplating a plan. She needed to alert Lily. But the sudden sound of a door slamming upstairs sent her heart into a frenzy. The man jerked his head toward the noise, his tension morphing into a determined focus. "Lily!" he called out, his voice sharp like a blade cutting through the heavy atmosphere. A spurt of adrenaline propelled Delilah into action. "No!" she muttered under her breath. Moving as silently as she could, she darted for the staircase, yearning to reach Lily before this man did. Each step was a battle against the rush of fear pounding through her veins. She reached the second floor, her mind racing with thoughts of how to protect the girl who trusted her. At the same time, she couldn't let this intruder find her. As she neared Lily's door, she noticed it was ajar, the faintest glow spilling out into the hallway. "Lily, come out!" the man shouted again, desperation creeping into his tone. Delilah's breath hitched. She was too late. The girl might already be in danger. Suddenly, the locket slipped through her fingers, clattering against the floor, the sound sharp and echoing in the stillness. The man froze. Their eyes locked for a split second, and Delilah felt the chill of his gaze pierce through her, realization dawning in his expression. "Who are you?" he demanded, stepping closer. Panic surged inside her, and she turned to flee. She had to reach Lily, to warn her. But the voice of doubt sliced through her mind. Could she make it in time? Or had she just sealed their fate? As she sprinted away, she could hear footsteps behind her, gaining speed. The world around her shifted from shadows to blinding urgency. The mansion's grandeur became a labyrinth, and she was its unwitting prey. "Lily!" she shouted as she sprinted toward the room, but the door swung closed before her eyes. The sound of thudding footsteps reverberated through the walls, chilling her bones. Time was running out, and the unknown hung over her like a storm cloud ready to break. In this decaying palace of secrets and deception, Delilah faced a choice, to run or fight. It wasn't just Lily's safety at stake, it was her own. What truly awaited her when she arrived at the door? Would the truth be her salvation or her damnation? Delilah's heart raced as she slammed against the door to Lily's room. Panic surged within her, pulsing in time with the footsteps thudding behind her. She shoved the door open, stepping inside just as the man's silhouette appeared in the hall. "Lily!" he shouted again, his voice fueled by urgency. "Hide!" Delilah hissed, her eyes darting around the room. She spotted a tall wardrobe and rushed toward it, jerking it open. "Get in there!" Lily's eyes widened in terror, but she obeyed, climbing inside without hesitation. Delilah closed the doors just as the man crossed the threshold. The air was suffocating. The room, once a safe haven, now felt like a trap. Delilah pressed herself against the wall, breath shallow and frantic. She could hear her own heartbeat roaring in her ears, drowning out the soft sounds of movement from the intruder. He stepped into the room, his gaze sweeping over the familiar space. "Lily! Where are you?" His voice was no longer sharp, it was a mix of desperation and something darker, a weight that pressed against her like 1,000 bricks. "Stay calm, stay quiet," she whispered softly to Lily, knowing the girl could hear her even from behind the closed doors. The man examined the area, his eyes glimmering in the dim light. "I know you're in here," he called, moving closer to the wardrobe. Delilah's stomach twisted. She could almost feel the dread wrapping around her like a cold blanket. What did he want with Lily? Why was he so determined? But the answer hovered at the edges of her mind, and she pushed it away. She couldn't let her thoughts spiral into despair. Suddenly, he turned his attention to the desk by the window, rifling through papers and little trinkets. She needed a distraction. With a silent prayer, Delilah glanced toward an ornate silver vase on the table. It was heavy, but it could serve a purpose. She grabbed it, the cold metal almost slipping from her grasp as she willed her shaking hands to steady. With a swift, deliberate motion, she hurled the vase across the room. Glass shattered against the wall, a sharp, bright sound that pierced the air. The man whipped around at the noise, his focus snapping away from the wardrobe. What was that? Now was her chance. "Lily, run!" she urged, and without waiting for an answer, Delilah dashed out toward the man, ready to confront him. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice trembling, but she held her ground. He stepped closer, his gaze narrowing. "You shouldn't have come here." He took a step forward, fingers flexing as if preparing to reach for her. "Leave her alone," Delilah shouted, her voice stronger now, fueled by adrenaline. She had to protect Lily, even if it meant standing against this man. His lips curled into a smirk, but something darker danced in his eyes. "You're too late, the game has just begun." Then he lunged. Delilah barely had time to react. She ducked, instinct kicking in, and scrambled toward the door. She had to escape with Lily, they had to get out. What would it take? She felt the air slice behind her as he barely missed grabbing her. She burst out into the hallway, desperation fueling her movements. "Lily!" she cried, glancing back, seeking her with frantic eyes. But the world felt blurred and chaotic. The man could be right behind her. She inhaled deeply, sensing the sickly sweet adrenaline overtaking her senses. She had no plan, just a singular goal, and one thought consumed her: where was Lily? As she turned a corner, she heard a soft whimper behind her. Time slowed. The hallway stretched before her, shadows looming like old secrets whispered only in the dark. Delilah's pulse raced in her ears as she forced herself to focus. What had she unleashed? And would she be able to save them both before it was too late? Delilah's heart pounded like a drum as she sprinted down the dimly lit hallway. The chill of fear gripped her spine, but she couldn't let it slow her down. She needed to find Lily. The shadows danced around her, flickering in the low light, morphing into haunting figures just as easily as her thoughts spiraled into panic. "Lily!" she shouted again, barely able to keep her voice steady. A part of her knew she was calling out for a girl who might not even be able to respond. The whimper she had heard resonated in her head. Had she left her friend behind? There was no time to ponder that now. She stepped cautiously into the next room, her senses tuned to mishaps and sounds that could betray her presence. The hair on the back of her neck stood up. Everything felt wrong, and she was suffocating in the thick layers of danger that cloaked the space. She stopped, leaning against the wall, desperately scanning her surroundings. A small kitchen lay before her, dishes piled high in the sink and half-open cabinets casting dark shadows. No sign of the girl. Panic mixed with frustration surged within her. She couldn't lose her. Not now. Then a shuffle just outside the door sent Delilah's heart racing again. Taking a deep breath, she edged toward the exit, teasing open the door enough to catch a glimpse of the hallway. There he was, the man, prowling like a lion seeking its prey. His shadow twisted in the flickering light from a nearby window. She sucked in her breath, pulse quickening. If she stepped out now, he'd know she was there. For a fleeting moment, she thought of running back to the room, hiding with Lily again, but deep down, she knew it was a trap. She needed a plan. Her eyes darted across the room and fell upon a kitchen knife resting on the counter. Would she really? The thought shook her momentarily. But she quickly dismissed it. Whatever this man wanted, it clearly involved Lily, and there was no way she'd just let him take her. Delilah's fingers curled tightly around the hilt as she made a decision. In the frantic moment, as the man's silhouette edged closer to her position, she knew she had to confront him. He had threatened them both already. With the knife clutched tightly, she erupted out of the room. "Get away from her!" she shouted, her voice hoarse and fierce. That he turned, surprise flashing across his face. "You shouldn't have come out," he growled, but Delilah stood firm, knife extended like a shield between her and the growing threat. "Lily!" Delilah screamed, her voice filled with urgency. "Where are you?" "Mommy!" A tiny voice called from behind him, shattering the tension. Delilah felt her blood run cold. That was Lily's voice. The man spun around, eyes narrowing as he took a step back, distracted by the calling. It was her moment. Delilah charged forward, ready to push him out of the way. "Lily, stay where you are," she shouted, not knowing where the girl was hiding but needing to protect her. He swung to block her path, and for an instant, time felt like it stood still. Delilah knew if she hesitated now, it could mean disaster. She thrust the knife out, aiming for him as her breath came in sharp gasps, but at that moment, a loud crash echoed behind her. The floor trembled, walls vibrated, and she stumbled, surprised. The man grinned, malice glowing in his eyes. "You think you're fighting for her?" he said, his voice taunting. Everything began to swirl. Delilah looked up, scanning the room. What had she just broken? And why was it all falling apart? The ground shook again, and her instincts screamed that she needed to make a choice, but her feet felt frozen to the ground. But Lily's voice called out again, full of terror and urgency. "Delilah!" And all at once, clarity surged through her. She had to save them both. Steeling herself, she rushed forward with renewed determination. The danger was all around, and obstacles crumbled behind her. What awaited them both? With a single heartbeat, in that deadly instant, Delilah took her final step. Would it be the path to freedom, or their undoing? Delilah's heart raced as she bolted forward, desperation fueling her every move. The man flinched, caught off guard by her sudden aggression, but his eyes quickly narrowed, their cold glint promising retribution. She could see Lily, just a few feet away, huddled behind a crumbling wall. Relief mingled dangerously with fear as Delilah realized how close she was to her friend. "Run, Lily! Get out of here!" she screamed. Lily's little eyes shimmered with confusion and tears, but she didn't move. She seemed hypnotized by the chaos around her, frozen in place. Delilah couldn't allow panic to take hold. Instead, she thrust her knife forward, aiming to drive the man away. "Get away from her!" she shouted, her voice shaking but resolute. The man took a hesitant step back, his grin fading. He seemed surprised that this cleaning lady dared to confront him. Delilah used his moment of distraction and dashed around him, each footstep feeling like a weight lifted from her chest. "Lily, come on!" she urged, swirling around to grab her friend's arm. But just as she reached out, the ground shook again, a low rumble echoing through the very walls they relied on for protection. Dust fell from the ceiling, coating them in a fine mist. Delilah yanked Lily closer, shielding her as the air thickened with tension. The man regained his footing, glaring, rage bubbling beneath the surface. "You think this is a game? You're in way over your head," he snarled. "Lily, come." Delilah begged again, pulling at her friend's trembling hands. Finally, Lily blinked, as if waking from a dream, and scrambled toward Delilah. Relief flooded Delilah's body, but it was short-lived. The man lunged toward them in a desperate attempt to regain control. "Get back!" Delilah shouted, thrusting the knife toward him again, her heart pounding in her ears. This time, she didn't feel fear, it was raw power that coursed through her veins. The man hesitated, eyeing the weapon as if it could bite. Still, the walls vibrated, cracking in the distance. Another piece of the ceiling broke off and tumbled to the ground, sending waves of dust into the air. "We need to get out now," Delilah shouted. She pulled Lily, and the two turned to bolt for the door. But the man roared, furious and unapologetic. "You're not leaving here." Suddenly, he lunged again, this time rushing directly at them. Delilah's instincts exploded into action. She sidestepped him, adrenaline surging as she gripped Lily tightly. They darted past, the man barely missing them. "Keep running!" Delilah yelled, glancing back over her shoulder, heart hammering like a wild drum. Behind them, the man stumbled, tripped by the rubble. The sound of teeth gnashing echoed in her ears like an ominous drumroll. Out of the kitchen, into the dim hallway once more, she felt the oppressive weight of time pressing down on her. "Where do we go?" Lily whimpered, her voice high and fearful. "Just keep moving." Delilah's mind raced, searching for an exit, a way to escape this nightmare. Just as they turned another corner, the flickering lights went out, plunging them into darkness. Delilah's heart sank. Panic washed over her like icy water. She took a breath, reminding herself that she couldn't let fear define her. "Stay close," she instructed, the quiet almost suffocating. But then they heard the sounds of footsteps behind them, growing louder with each passing moment. "It's coming!" Lily cried, her voice trembling more than Delilah's hands. They had to make a choice. "We need to find a door," Delilah implored. "But where?" The darkness enveloped them like a sinister fog, and Delilah sensed their pursuer was close behind. Just then, the walls trembled again, and a loud crash rumbled around them, sending debris cascading down. "This way!" Delilah shouted, lunging toward an emergency exit sign barely visible at the far end of the hallway. The flickering lights above sputtered out, leaving only the red glow guiding them. But as they stumbled towards the exit, Delilah's foot caught on a loose floorboard, a painful reminder of how quickly fortunes could change. With each step, the pounding footsteps behind them escalated. Time was running out. Would they reach the door in time? The weight of the moment pressed down like an anchor. What awaited them outside? Would they find safety, or was it another trap waiting to ensnare them? Desperation clawed at Delilah's chest as they raced toward the unknown, each beat of her heart echoing the question that loomed larger than life itself: could they escape the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole? Delilah felt the adrenaline surging through her. The emergency exit loomed ahead, but so did the shadow of the man. Every second stretched like a rubber band, ready to snap, ready to unleash chaos. As she steadied Lily beside her, the air was thick with dread. "Don't worry, we'll make it," she whispered, her voice barely getting past her tight throat. They were so close, she could almost taste freedom. The flickering red sign was like a beacon, but it flickered menacingly, as if it, too, was uncertain about their escape. But just as they charged toward the door, the world tilted. Delilah's foot snagged on the board, and she fell hard. Pain shot through her knee, but she barely had time to groan. When she looked up, she saw him, a wild glint in his eyes, a predator hungry for the kill. "Delilah!" Lily's scream pierced the air. Scrambling to her feet, Delilah felt a surge of panic but pushed it aside. "Get behind me!" she shouted as she raised her knife, clenched tightly in her fist, shaking but fierce. The man advanced, stepping cautiously, yet the menace in his movements was clear. He laughed, a low, rumbling sound that reverberated like a death knell. "You think you can fight me off with a kitchen knife? Pathetic." His words lit a fire in her veins. She wasn't just a cleaning lady, she had something far more powerful than he realized. "Courage. Back off," she warned, voice steady now, more confident. She took a step forward, knife glinting in the emergency lights. But in that instant, the floor trembled again, a warning rumble echoing through the building. Dust poured from the cracked ceiling like the sky was weeping. The man's eyes widened momentarily, and Delilah took her chance. "Run, Lily!" she shouted, pushing her friend toward the exit. With every ounce of strength, Delilah moved in front of Lily, blocking her advance against the man. "Is this it?" he taunted, tensing up. "You think this little act will save you?" "Of course, it will," Delilah replied, and courage surged through her. The walls trembled again, the building groaned as if it knew it was about to collapse. There was no time to spare. Suddenly, he lunged again, and Delilah's instincts kicked in. She ducked sideways, feeling the rush of air as he missed her by inches. They were in a deadly dance, and she was not about to let him win. "Now, Lily!" she screamed, urging Lily forward. She could hear the soft thud of her friend's hurried steps behind her. The emotional swell inside Delilah escalated. Love. Fear. Defiance. She darted for the exit. Just as they neared the door, the man grabbed her by the arm, yanking her backward. The knife slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor. Foolish girl. He hissed, attempting to pull her into his grasp. In one frantic motion, Delilah twisted, but his grip was iron. The echoes of falling debris added to the urgency. With a shove, she pushed against him, desperate not to lose Lily. Get the door. She roared, feeling the weight of the moment crashing down around her. The door rattled, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged through her, but she couldn't let go. Lily. She cried, her heart squeezing painfully. And suddenly, she saw it. A flicker of determination in her friend's eyes. With shaking hands, Lily lunged for the handle again. The door creaked, jolting as if it had been possessed by their urgency. Hold on. Delilah shouted, straining against the man's grip. Then a blast of energy surged from Lily, and the door swung open. The light from outside poured into the darkness like salvation itself. Go. Delilah urged, tearing free from the man's grasp. She felt his fingers claw at her, but she was unstoppable now. Lily dashed through the door, but Delilah's heart raced as if it might burst. Would they escape? Was the dawn waiting just beyond? And then, just as Delilah took a step toward freedom, the walls shuddered one last time. She glanced back, dread filling her as the shadows closed in. Would they finally break free from this nightmare, or would the darkness consume them both? The door swung open like a portal to another world. Delilah felt a blast of cold air wash over her, the sweet scent of freedom mingled with the acrid tang of smoke. It called to her, a siren song, but the darkness behind her screamed louder. Delilah, hurry. Lily's voice trembled, pulling her back into the present. With every ounce of strength, Delilah surged forward. But she couldn't just run, she had to look back and face the demon that sought to drag her back into despair. The man was snarling now, his dark silhouette a stark heartbeat against the flickering lights of the exit. With raw fury etched across his features, he pushed through the rubble, determination fueling his monstrous pursuit. The building creaked ominously around them, a fragile shell threatening to cave in with each passing second. Let us go. Delilah urged, glancing over her shoulder as she sprinted through. But Lily hesitated, eyes wide, torn between the chaos inside and the hope waiting outside. Delilah now. Delilah shouted, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. She grabbed Lily's wrist, yanking her forward. Adrenaline coursed like fire in her veins as she led the way down the narrow hallway that spilled out into the stark daylight. They rushed into the open air, their feet striking pavement with an urgency that was electric. For a moment, the fear that gripped her chest loosened just a bit. But then a deafening crash rang out from behind. Dust and debris erupted as the building gave a monstrous groan, beams collapsing in a ferocious torrent. Delilah flung herself forward, pulling Lily with her, their bodies propelled by pure instinct. Keep running, don't stop. Delilah yelled, feeling the ground quake beneath them. She could almost taste the freedom she had longed for, but the shadow of the man loomed ominously in her mind. They dashed around the corner, trees lining the sidewalk providing a fleeting moment of sanctuary. Delilah's breath burned in her lungs, each inhalation sharp and painful. She glanced back, half expecting to see him barreling through the rubble, driven by rage and desperation, but the street behind them was empty. Silence fell heavy, broken only by the distant sirens and the unsettling crackle of flames. Had he given up? Had he been buried beneath the very walls that had held them captive, now crumbling under the weight of their escape? Delilah, do you think we're safe? Lily's voice quivered. Delilah shook her head slowly, her heart racing as doubt gnawed at her. I don't know. But we can't stop here. They turned another corner. The world outside felt surreal, as though they had stepped from a nightmare into an unwelcome reality. Cars were parked casually along the street, oblivious to the chaos they had just left. Were people really going about their daily lives while they fought for survival? Lily's eyes darted around, looking for familiar faces, but all she found was a city lost in its mundane routine. It felt wrong, like they were still trapped in a twisted illusion. "Delilah, we need to call for help," she insisted, her voice steady despite her wide eyes. "Help?" Delilah echoed, her thoughts churning. "And say what?" "That we were chased by a monster." Fear and uncertainty crept back into her resolve like a shadow, whispering that their ordeal might not yet be over. A part of her believed calling the police would draw unwanted attention not just from authorities, but from the man who hunted them. Suddenly, a sound sliced through the air, a soft but unmistakable thud that echoed closer, coming from just beyond a set of parked cars. Delilah froze, heart in her throat again. What was that? Lily turned, eyes wide like saucers. The silence settled like a dark blanket, smothering their hopes of safety. "Delilah, I think yes," the words faltered as a figure emerged from the shadows, and Delilah's breath caught in her chest, a sickening realization spreading through her. What if there was no escape after all? As the figure stepped into view, confusion skated along her spine, and dread bubbled anew within her. Was it him? Or had they stumbled onto something even worse? "Lily, run!" Delilah shouted, her mind racing. But even as she screamed, something deep inside her whispered, they were far from free. The figure emerged from the shadows, and Delilah's heart raced like a trapped bird. It wasn't just the man from the building, but a woman, tall and imposing, with an expression that was anything but welcoming. Her long coat flapped around her like the wings of a raven, the night's shadows wrapping around her limbs. "Who are you?" Delilah demanded, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and defiance. The woman stepped closer, eyes locked onto Delilah with a fierce intensity. "I'm here to help," she said, her tone suddenly softening. "But we don't have much time. He's coming." Lily squeezed Delilah's arm, panic seeping into her voice. "How do you know him? How do you know us?" "Because I know all about him," she replied, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting a storm to break. "All of you," she added ominously, as if there were hidden secrets lurking just beneath the surface. Delilah's instincts screamed at her to run, but they were already so far out of their depth that she wanted to grasp at any lifeline offered. "What do you know?" she pressed, her desperation mounting. "I know he'll hunt you until he has you back," the woman said, her expression unwavering. "This isn't over." But it could be before Delilah could ask what she meant, a deep rumble echoed through the street, an ominous reminder of the chaos they had narrowly escaped. "We need to move." The woman's voice was urgent now. "Follow me." Delilah and Lily exchanged uncertain looks, but there was no choice. They had fled from one danger only to plunge into another. They took hesitant steps as the woman led them down an alley, the buildings closing in around them like tall, menacing sentinels. "Where are we going?" Lily whispered, glancing back nervously. The alley twisted like a snake, darkness pooling in its corners, damp and rich with secrets. A safe place, the woman assured them, but her eyes told a different story. Shadows flitted across her face, revealing flickers of fear she could not hide. "Who are you?" Delilah asked again, trying to keep the fear from her voice. "What do you want?" There was a pause, a tension-filled moment that hung thick in the air before the woman responded. "I want you safe, for reasons that will become clear soon enough." Suddenly, shouts pierced the silence, echoing down the alley like a deafening alarm. Footsteps pounded against the pavement. Delilah's heart thudded in her chest, each beat screaming to keep going, to escape. "Run!" the woman shouted, pulling Delilah and Lily forward as more footsteps approached. Delilah sprinted, her blood pounding in her ears, the taste of desperation bitter on her tongue. The alley opened into a narrow street, lined with warehouses that loomed like silent giants. They darted into the shadows between buildings, hiding in the recesses where the light didn't reach. Delilah's mind raced. They could get lost in this maze, perfect for an ambush. Where are we going? She gasped, feeling more lost than ever. Just trust me. The woman snapped, eyes flaring with urgency. Keep quiet. They ducked behind a stack of crates as the footsteps drew closer. Delilah held her breath, praying the shadows would cloak them in safety. Stay still, the woman whispered, her eyes darting around, vigilantly scanning for danger, but even as they cowered, a faint sound echoed from the warehouse, a chilling chuckle that sent shivers coursing down Delilah's spine. Sooner or later, I will find you. It was his voice, laced with menace, reverberating against the warehouse walls. Delilah felt the weight of every word crash against her. They hadn't escaped. They had only stumbled deeper into the nightmare. What was the woman hiding? And why was the man hunting Delilah so relentlessly? As the chilling laughter faded, the weight of uncertainty settled over them like a heavy shroud, choking their fleeting hope. What now? Lily whispered, eyes wide with fear and confusion. The woman turned to them, intensity radiating from her every feature. Now, we fight. And just like that, they stood at the edge of something far darker than any of them had anticipated. What will they discover as the darkness closes in? Fight? Delilah echoed, her voice barely a whisper, thick with disbelief. The weight of the woman's words hit like a punch to the gut. They were supposed to be running, hiding, escaping, not preparing for an attack. Yes, fight, the woman insisted, her tone sharp as glass, eyes blazing with a fierce determination. We have to make sure he knows we won't be easy targets. What do you mean? Lily's voice trembled, but the woman didn't answer. Instead, she scanned their surroundings, the muscles in her jaw taut as she listened to the echoes of fading footsteps. The tension twisted in Delilah's stomach like a coiled snake ready to strike. We need weapons, the woman finally said, breaking their silent standstill. He won't come for you head on. He'll send someone else first. Who? Delilah questioned, her heart racing anew, visions of shadows lurking behind every crate. Trust me, was all the woman retorted, before slipping into the darkness between the crates. Where are you going? Delilah called, inching after her. You'll see, came the reply. The woman turned, her fingers wrapped around something metallic, a crowbar. She tossed another one to Delilah and then to Lily, who fumbled with it, eyes wide with uncertainty. Great, Lily muttered. How is a crowbar going to save us? It'll buy us time, the woman gutted, wielding it with precision. We can defend ourselves long enough to get out. Think of it as a hammer, not a weapon. Delilah gripped the crowbar, its cold metal biting into her palm. They were entrenched in a nightmare, and yet they were going to fight back. Fear clawed at her insides, but a flicker of resolve ignited in her heart. She would do anything to protect Lily, to protect herself. Follow me, the woman ordered, pushing through a door behind the crates. It creaked ominously as they entered a dimly lit storage room. Old wooden shelves sagged under the weight of dust-covered boxes, and a faint scent of mildew lingered, heavy in the air. What now? Lily whispered again, fear quaking her voice. We regroup, the woman answered, raising her voice just above the whisper. When he comes, and he will come, we'll be ready. Just then, a loud crash boomed from somewhere outside the warehouse. Delilah jumped, instincts kicking in. Stay alert. The woman commanded. Delilah's breath came in ragged gasps, her grip tightening around the crowbar. Every nerve in her body screamed for action. She could feel the heat of adrenaline flushing her cheeks, a mixture of fear and determination coursing through her veins. We can't just wait around here. Delilah protested, frustration spilling over. They had been on the run for too long. We need to find a way out, now. Thinking ahead isn't weakness, the woman growled back, but Delilah could see the fear flickering behind her brave facade. Smart choices keep us alive. Glancing around the room, Delilah felt the weight of uncertainty bearing down on her once more. Shelves held secrets, What if they had more than storage hidden here? Suddenly, the door swung open, and Delilah's heart leaped into her throat. A silhouette filled the doorway, a familiar shape as terrifying as a dark omen. It was him. "I know you're in here." His voice twisted through the shadows, smooth and taunting. Delilah's mind raced, every shred of courage hanging by a thread. They were cornered. "What are we going to do?" she hissed, panic rising in her throat. The shadows seemed to thicken around them, swallowing the room whole. "Fight," the woman spat, her eyes narrowing as the threat loomed closer. As they prepared to confront the monster that hunted them, Delilah felt the gravity of their situation crash around her, uncertain whether this would be their last stand. Could they survive this together? Or had they only sealed their fates? The echo of his laughter rang in her ears, drowning out the sounds of her frantic thoughts. The moment had come, and all Delilah could wonder was, would they be brave enough to fight? The room was charged with tension as the figure stepped fully into view, casting a long shadow over them. His eyes gleamed with malice, and it was as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. "Thought you could hide from me?" he taunted, the smirk on his face chilling Delilah to the bone. "Stay back!" Delilah cried, raising the crowbar with trembling hands, although her heart screamed for her to run. The woman beside her stood firm, a fierce protector determined not to let fear paralyze them. Together, the woman urged, anchoring Delilah's courage. "We're not just victims anymore." The man took a step forward, danger lacing his movement. "You think you're so clever? This is your grave," he growled, but Delilah tightened her grip, refusing to succumb to his intimidation. With a crack of thunder outside, a storm rumbled in the distance, mirroring the chaos that swirled within. Delilah looked at Lily, eyes wide with fear but also a flicker of something else, hope. "We fight now," she yelled, channeling all her energy into those words. The laughter that came from the man was all-consuming, echoing around them. But in that instant of defiance, something inside Delilah ignited. Adrenaline surged as she lunged forward, swinging the crowbar with all her strength. It collided with his arm, the sound echoing in the confined space like a thunderclap. He stumbled back, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Now, Lily!" Delilah shouted. "Go!" But the girl remained standing, her feet glued to the floor, anxiety gripping her like a vice. "I can't leave you!" she cried. "You have to!" Delilah insisted, her voice cracking. "You're the reason we're doing this. I'll hold him back." Amid the rising urgency, the woman snatched Lily's arm. "Listen, if we don't get out of here, all of this will mean nothing. Trust us." The man regained his footing, rage boiling in his veins. "You think you can turn the tides? You're nothing." He spat, advancing toward them again. In a powerful rush, the woman stepped in front of Lily. "Go now," she commanded. In a flash, she swung her crowbar at him. Delilah seized the moment, feelings of protectiveness surging through her as she darted toward the door with Lily in tow. They dashed past the man, who was momentarily distracted, and pushed through the door to freedom. Cold air assaulted them, a clear contrast to the suffocating darkness behind. Together, they stumbled into the open warehouse yard, the flickering lights guiding them like a lifeline. "Where do we go?" Lily shouted, glancing back fearfully. "Stay close," Delilah urged, leading the way down the alley that wound between darkened buildings. They could hear the man's enraged shouts echoing behind them, a reminder of the danger that still loomed. As they reached a corner, a glint of something caught Delilah's eye. It was a metal container, partially ajar, filled with the remnants of forgotten experiences. "In here!" she yelled, pushing Lily inside and climbing in after her. "Is this safe?" Lily whispered, voice shaking. "We'll be okay. Just stay quiet," Delilah breathed, clutching the girl while leaning against the cold, hard metal. Delilah's heart raced, and her breath came in shallow gasps. She could hear footsteps pounding the pavement nearby, desperate and frantic. The woman's face appeared suddenly at the container's edge, panic in her eyes. In here, quick. They pulled the door shut just as the man rounded the corner, his rage palpable. You little rats think you can escape? He roared, shaking the containers nearby. Delilah squeezed Lily tighter, willing courage and strength into her trembling friend. The air inside was thick with tension, and they could barely breathe. Would they ever find safety? But then, the rattle of metal screeched, something shifting outside. Their hearts thudded as the man's shadow drifted closer, blotting out even the flickering light. Suddenly, the world imploded, the woman bursting into the container with a breathless urgency that startled them both. We have to move. Now. Delilah couldn't move. She felt frozen. Listen, you can't stay here. Run. The woman urged, eyes fierce and unyielding. You need to trust me. Lily's small voice broke through the chaos. I trust you, Delilah. That was all it took. With the flicker of trust igniting their resolve, Delilah nodded. Let us go. Together, they bolted from the container as the man thundered nearby. Adrenaline propelled them forward, leading them through the intricate maze of shadows. Each heartbeat echoed loudly within their chests, driving them onward, but the void and the uncertainty clung like a shadow. But when they finally reached a street outside, sunlight hit their faces like a shield. Breathless and raw, they turned back, daring to hope. The man's figure loomed in the distance, but this time he was just a silhouette against the blazing dawn. The chaos behind them felt different now, it was a fading memory, something they would overcome together. Delilah. Lily. Called a voice from down the street. It was the millionaire father, searching for his daughter. Relief washed over Delilah, and she turned to see him rushing toward them, eyes frantic but hopeful. Daddy! Lily screamed, tearing away from Delilah and racing to meet her father. Delilah stood frozen, her heart full of conflicting emotions. The fight wasn't over, they'd encountered horrors they would never have imagined, and yet here, together, they had found strength in their bond. Thank you, she whispered to the woman beside her, who nodded knowingly, a proud glint in her eye. You are no longer just a cleaning lady, she said firmly. You're a protector now. The fight continues, but you have allies. As the father embraced Lily, all their fears began to fade into the warmth of the son's embrace. Delilah wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, but she felt something profound shift within her, a fierce determination to keep those she cared about safe, no matter the cost. And together, united by shared experiences and growing courage, they would face whatever darkness dared to come their way. This was not just the end, it was a new beginning. Now, before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who are dying to see how this story wraps up. Your support is everything. Only true fans understand the importance of standing by the channel.